In this week's episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, after nearly being burnt to death in the atmosphere of space, Tekkadan has finally arrived at Earth. But the mission is far from over. Just to reiterate, this is going to be a review of Iron-Blooded Orphans episode 19 and 20, because last week I got sick, I got a bad case of the flu, I decided to sleep it off, and this week I'm going to review both episodes, which both going together are very different from one another. Episode 19 is a real classic episode of Gundam. It's something that we've seen in nearly every other series, and that is a descent to Earth, which is a big mobile suit battle in the atmosphere right outside of Earth as they're either leaving or going to the planet, and there's always a couple of mobile suits who end up getting caught and end up getting killed in this big fiery explosion, while some of them are trying to escape from this, and that's exactly what happened in this episode, which was absolutely action-packed. I mean, don't get me wrong, the mobile suit action in this episode is pretty damn great. There are some amazing moments, especially when Gaelio and Ein finally get involved in the battle. I love the fact that the Barbatos actually has this armor on, which it uses as a trick. When it gets hit by Gaelio, it's actually able to take his weapon away from him. And there's this great scene where he takes its lance and throws it right through Ein's mobile suit. It even goes through the cockpit. And honestly, last week, after watching the episode, I was convinced that Ein is dead. That's pretty much it. However, there was a clue to show that he might be alive, and that's if there was no explosion, and episode 20 will make it painfully clear that Ein is going to return. He might even have some brand new physical enhancements, which will put him on the same level as the pilots from Tekkadan. We're just going to have to wait and see. I think that's a pretty interesting development overall, though, because obviously a lot of the people from Earth, especially the people from Galahorn, do not use the Alaya Vijnana system. I think my favorite thing about episode 19, aside from the incredible mobile suit action and that final scene of the episode, which I'll get to in a second, is probably all of the ship battles, and something that I think is really important about this series, because a lot of times in the Gundam anime, it's usually the mobile suits who steal the show, and rarely is it like the big battleships or the cruisers or the big like launching ships. This one right here, the Isaribi, is just fantastic, and it's made even better by the fact that the character of Eugene is actually using that system to control not only that, but another ship at the same time as they're flying past all of Galahorn's fleets, the ones that actually belong to Karta Issue, the foxy lady, who seems to have a real intense rivalry with both Gaelio and McGillis Farid. Speaking of McGillis Farid, there's this flashback of them as kids, which I don't know why, but the scene just made me laugh my ass off, because when you see the child version of McGillis, he looks like exactly the same. Just really super intense and almost kind of brooding, but you know that he's actually planning something. He's a real sly little bastard, not to mention he's going by the name of Montag yet again with his brand new Char Aznable look. Not to mention we get to see a little bit of him in action in this episode with his mobile suit, which looks really awesome. The scene where both him and the Barbatos are fighting together and then they go back to back is real classic. And of course, the final scene of the episode, which is great because everybody thinks that Mikazuki is about to be killed as he's going through the atmosphere and going to Earth, but what happens is he's actually standing on top of an enemy mobile suit, which takes all of the damage. And the final scene of them arriving with a shot of the ocean and the moon, with Mikazuki looking at it and reflecting on the fact that that's his name, just makes for a really iconic ending to this episode, and probably one of my favorite episodes from the entire series. And then there's episode 20, where things slow down significantly. Basically, Tekkadan is deciding to take a break, they're going to unload all the mobile suits, they now have a base on Earth, and they're going to be working with this other guy by the name of Mr. Makanai, who supposedly is going to be helping him out, but obviously he's just using Tekkadan for his very own motives. They're in this land which is supposedly neutral even for Galahorn, but they're getting ready to bust in and start kicking some ass, not to mention the space fleet, which is getting ready to come in, led again by Karta Issue, who is seriously pissed off. I think the biggest development from this episode, though, is the argument that happens between Orga and between Biscuit, because Biscuit really wants them to go back to Mars, and he doesn't want them to go any further and put themselves in danger. Basically, he's just looking out for the general well-beings of his friends and his crewmates. And then you have Orga, who is just constantly trying to do the most dangerous thing possible. Whether he's still trying to do that for Mikazuki or if he feels that's just something he has to do as a leader, it's kind of hard to say, but it definitely paints him as a little more of a complex character, and I can't wait to see where they're going to go from here. Obviously, I think Biscuit is actually going to come back. I think he's going to be convinced, especially by everyone's favorite mechanic with metal legs. That guy's so freaking awesome. Not to mention, this episode just had a lot of weird, funny moments of them actually arriving and reacting to the way things are on Earth. The fact that the sea is salt water, or when they see a fish for the first time, they completely freak out and they don't even want to eat them. But can you really blame someone for not wanting to eat a fish they've seen for the first time, especially if it's just the fish's head? Something about that is a little strange. That being said, this was a pretty nice episode right here, which is more of a build-up for things to come in the future episodes, but I really liked it, especially the concept of Gaelio and Ein, with Ein getting ready to get some brand new modifications. Maybe he's going to be like somewhat android-like. I'm not quite sure where they're going with that, but honestly, I thought he was dead, but I guess we just have to see a ship explode for something like that to happen. So, what's the rundown on both of these episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans? I loved both of them. Of course, I liked episode 19 just a little bit more because it was a lot of action, lots of mobile suits and ship battles, and of course the classic concept of the mobile suits going to Earth and not getting burned up in the atmosphere. We've seen it 100 times, but it's always really cool and really tense, and the mobile suit battles here looked really, really great. That's definitely something to mention. The ship battles were amazing. I also really just like all the little small moments between the characters, like that scene in episode 19 where we have that moment again where Mikazuki and Kudelia are getting ready to shake hands. Originally, Mikazuki didn't want to do it because his hands were dirty, but she realizes that her hands are basically covered with blood with everything that's happened. It's a little cheesy, but honestly, it works out with them both shaking each other's hand. You can see that their development is really coming along quite nicely, but it's also really conflicting for Mikazuki because he doesn't really quite understand what's going on. Basically, it just infuriates him, but we'll get to see more development like that from the future. What I will say is I liked both of these episodes. I'm more partial to the action one, but I still like the development of all of the characters, especially the thing with Orga and Biscuit. I can't wait to see how that's going to handle, but I have a feeling Biscuit is going to return. On the technical side of things, both these episodes looked really good. Of course, 19 looked a little bit better, but that's because there were all these great action scenes, but I still loved the imagery of episode 20, finally being able to be on Earth in a brand new place, and everything looks really great. It's really cool to be there with the characters discovering it for the first time because you're right along for the ride. So this was another great atmospheric double episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. You should definitely check them out, because this is not just a good Gundam anime, it's a good anime, period. So, I'm going to give both episodes a 4 out of 5. I like them both for completely different reasons, and that, again, is one of the strengths of Iron-Blooded Orphans. It's not just a good action show, it's also telling a really good political war drama story. So, check it out, anime fans, check it out, mecha fans, you might see something you like. But if you did watch either of these episodes, make sure to tell me what you thought about them in the comment section below. Did you have a favorite scene from either of these? Do you like the developments of where the story is going? What do you want to see from the rest of Iron-Blooded Orphans? Make sure to tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.